Hey guys, it's Ashley Francis, the holistic psychotherapist, and today we're going to talk about perfectionism. Now, perfectionism is the need to be or the appearance of being perfect, and it is also that we believe that perfection is possible. So today we're going to talk about what are some of the signs to help you identify whether or not you're struggling with perfectionism. Then we'll talk a little bit about the causes to help you understand where it comes from. And then we'll talk about a few ways that you can start to treat the perfectionism all on your own so that you can start feeling better here pretty soon. So keep in mind that the world of perfectionism is vast. There's a lot of information to be learned here. And so I've included more information in a write-up that is included in the description, so you can find that down below if after listening to this video you have more questions. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some of the causes. So the first one is that, we're going to talk about the signs. The first one is that you are not performing a task unless you know that it can be completed to perfection. You will talk yourself out of engaging in something because you believe that it's got to be perfect in order for it to be worth it for me to even start this project. I have to have evidence that this is going to go off without a hitch before I even invest my time and energy into it. And yet the irony is that there's absolutely no way to know if it's actually worth your time and energy without doing it. Now, there are some things that you can do to think critically and rationally about something. I'm not sitting here saying that you just need to jump into every single idea that you have, but it's a matter of finding a good balance of, okay, I've thought through this, I can see it logically, I see it rationally, and now I need to pull the trigger of being able to put yourself into the action mode. Now, the second one is that you're overly focused on the finished product and you're not even paying attention to the journey that it takes to get there. So you may have a sense of entitlement here. You feel as though, gosh, I put so much effort into this and I should be done by now. Or another one that I hear is that I should be further along than I am. So you're really underestimating what it takes in order to achieve that goal. And you get overly focused on, well, I should have made this money by now, or my business should be more successful, or I should be in a relationship by now. I've worked so hard for this. I've earned it. I deserve it. But really, if you pivot and start to focus on the process of it all, you can have more of appreciation for how difficult something really is and can get you out of that perfection loop. The next thing is that you procrastinate. You may put some things off just because the activity or the task seems so big, and you may even start to get caught up in a lot of self-blame or self-denigrating types of comments, like this isn't meant for me, it's meant for other people. Every time I start something, I never finish it anyway, so what's the use? So I'm just going to keep putting it off. And you may even have gone so far as made up a list of all the things that you're going to do, and then it just sits there. So another sign is that it takes longer for you to complete a task. You may be one of those people that writes a text or types a text, and then you erase it a million times. Or you've written out an email and you've gone over it 10, 20, 30 times before you send it. It takes you a lot longer to complete some things compared to your peers. And then finally, something to look out for is that it's hard to ask for help. So with a perfectionist, they hold themselves in high regard, and it's really hard for them to practice any sort of vulnerability. It's hard to be able to it's thought of as weakness, basically, and that I don't want to be viewed as weak. I already have all the answers. I don't need to consult with anyone. There again, it's kind of tied to this sense of entitlement. I work hard. I deserve this. I should. Ooh, the shoulds. The shoulds come up. I should know better. I don't need to rely on anyone else. I got this. And that is oftentimes working to your detriment. So now let's talk about some of the causes. Where does this all come from? And the first is fear of disapproval. And a lot of times this comes from your parents. Your parents have set some expectations up for you, maybe from a very young age, that were unrealistic. They were too high. Maybe they would have been appropriate for an adult, but for a child, it was just too much. And they've held you to that high standard. And because you weren't ever meeting that high standard, you started to develop some self-blame and taking it personally, as most children do. It's just the nature of children to blame themselves when things are not working out. So it can come in that form, but it can also come in the form of just seeing a parent that is perfectionistic themselves. Now, our parents are the best model. When I say best, I'm using that term loosely. It's the most influential model, impactful model that we have to teach us of what it means to be a human and eventually what it means to be an adult. So if you are seeing that your parents or parent is very perfectionistic, it's just something that you're seeing over and over and over and over again. And there's conscious ways that's getting implanted in you, and there's also subconscious ways that you're soaking it up too. So there's a couple ways that can manifest. Another is anxiety or OCD. If you struggle with mental health issues just naturally, then you might be more prone to some of these ruminating thoughts and being self-critical and just being more sensitive. And then also, speaking of things pertaining to parents, you may have had an insecure attachment from a young age. So what this basically means is that you had a parent or both parents that were not consistent in their parenting. Maybe they were there for you sometimes and then they weren't there other times. Or maybe you had a parent that was physically present but not emotionally present. And once again, this becomes very confusing to the child, and children, being very egocentric in nature, blame themselves for all of that. So this can turn into, I need to be perfect. I need to do things right in order to be accepted by my parents, or even to be seen by my parents. And again, guys, these are just a few causes, a few ways that it shows up. And of course, next is to be able to label it. These are some of the things that you can do to start feeling better. So just labeling it, saying it out loud that I'm a perfectionist. That's what this is. Giving it a name can be really validating and comforting. And the second thing is for you to identify where it comes from. So I would advise that you work with a therapist that is well-versed in perfectionism to help you identify your role within your family, but also to be able to practice some types of replacement thoughts that can be really helpful here. So that's the other idea too, is to make a list of all of the self-blaming, self-doubt, negative thoughts that you have, or even the perfectionistic thoughts that you have. These are usually going to show up in the form of shoulds and musts. And then on the right side, in the column right next to it, you're going to come up with some replacement thoughts for this that are more positive and strength-based. So an example of a replacement thought is that I must make a certain amount of money, or I must have my business be successful. And a replacement thought for that would be that I'm going to enjoy the process and I find other ways to seek value in my life. Again, you might want to work with a therapist to pan this out. And the last one is to mess up on purpose. If the very thing that you're afraid of is to make a mistake or to be viewed as incompetent or less than, then this is kind of referred to as exposure therapy. You're going to lean into the very thing that you're scared of so that it desensitizes you and it makes you less afraid of making the mistake. Oftentimes it's just this matter of control. I've always got to be in control. But if you take away that sense of control and start to get used to what that feels like, you're going to figure it out. Okay, so like I said, guys, these are just a few ideas. This is what perfectionism is and different ways that it can show up. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this.